back for another episode. I think we're in episode 6 maybe of this. It's Off the Air, On the Record, where we take your favorite radio DJs from every single city and every single time period in your life, and we get down and dirty and have some fun. My name is Marco. I am been on the radio for quite a while now, doing mornings at K100 in Toledo, Ohio, and this is my sister, who also does mornings. And by the way, after a long period of searching on the internet, still, I don't know a brother and sister that are doing morning drive. Maybe not together, but still, the only brother-sister morning duo. We can say that safely.
I love that.
We should put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
That's my contribution to the T-shirt ideas that we have.
I love it.
Yeah, Danny does mornings at Key 103 in Frederick, Maryland. Thanks for hanging out here. Always hit like, share, comment, and if you want questions to ask to some of the radio legends that we talk to here, you're certainly more than welcome to do that. How are you, Dan?
I'm excellent. I am doing well.
Good. I'm excited tonight. We have a very special guest on here tonight, one that has done terrestrial radio, but also our very first satellite radio DJ.
I know. I can't wait to find out more about that the satellite universe, because it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is big time, and this guy's a true professional. Worked in the area in the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. market, and has done great things, and we're super excited to have him on. In fact, we're going to bring him on now. We'll take Ron Ross off the air and put him on the record. Oh, look at that. But two opens, Ron. I bet you're not used to having a show with two opens.
That was weird. I saw the Kid Kelly air check there from Z-100 New York. You know how many times I've watched that? I love that air check so much.
This is why I'm super excited tonight, because I'm a radio geek. I'm a professed geek in radio. Love all the ins and outs. That's why we started doing this podcast. I know you are the same way. We grew up in the same area. In fact, we grew up in the same town, didn't really even know each other, but worked several places, either together or just missing each other. And so I'm super excited to have you on. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. I was just telling Danny a couple of weeks ago when we just started comparing like resumes and call letters, did the alphabet soup, and realized it's like the same 200 people that just kind of do this. All the different radio stations. And so Danny and I we never worked together until now, but we were, but I knew Erica from 98 Rock because I worked with Erica at DC 101, and I was at 101, and I did Hot 99.5 in DC, Z-104, both the original in Frederick, Maryland. There you go. There's the call letters right there, Z-104. Yeah. And then the logo, I should say. And then the Z-104 in Washington, D.C. And that was weird. Oh, look, I even put my Key 103 mic flag on. I'm now doing afternoon drive at Key 103 after over 20 years of doing morning drive. Now I'm doing afternoons, and it is it's weird to not have to get up at the butt crack of dawn. It's fantastic.
Man. It is weird and lucky.
I get to hang out with my wife, and we have coffee, and we wordle, and then we wordle every day, and then whatever we're going to do for the day. I mean, I ran errands today, and then it's like, oh well, I got to go to work. Okay, bye, and I got to head into work. And actually, to be in a studio is also extremely exciting. To be back in a building, because I was working from home for the past 3 years because of the pandemic with Sirius XM. So I did mornings on Sirius XM on the Pulse. Previously, it was Flight 26 when it was just XM. And when I was there was almost 16 years. Almost 16. And then,
wow, that's great, man.
Yeah, well, it was a heck of a run. Yeah. Had a great time.
We're glad to have you here. I always love doing the shows here because, again, being a radio geek, I always love to see other people's setup. So I like your home setup. You've got the plaques in the back with all the memorabilia. So nice work on that. I'd have to give you probably an A- for studio.
Wow, thank you. Well, again, this is Greatest Wife Ever did all of this. This is the second studio. The first studio, this is the daughter of the younger's old bedroom, daughter of the elder's bedroom over there was the first time when it was the day before St. Patrick's Day 2020. And I was in the studio at work at Sirius XM in DC, and I did a live morning show. And then I had my boss call me, and he goes, "What are you doing there?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I doing here?" He goes, "You got to work from home, like starting tomorrow." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So they'd given me a computer mic, much like this one. This is a different one, and I never hooked it up. I didn't know what to do, and so I called my wife, and I'm like, I gotta talk into a closet. And that's all I told her. And so by the time I got home, I had bought another monitor. Anyway, hooked up the laptop, put up the computer, and she stuck me in literally facing the closet. So I had all these clothes and coats and all that stuff. And then she built these barriers around me, kind of like a pillow fort, right? So I had these tapestries and there might be a picture that I sent you that's in there of me. Miley Cyrus thought it looked legit when I talked to her. And Paul Reiser said it looked like Keith Richards' bedroom. So I was really excited about that. So then when it looked like I was going to be working from home permanently, I got all kinds of electronic equipment. They sent me, monitors and computers and mics and all that stuff. So we bought acoustic foam, stuck it up on the wall, and I found all of these records. These are from the 90s from Z-104 in DC. And that's Robin. That's the New Radicals. You get what you give. That's In Sync and the Crisp. That right there is Barbie Girl. We broke that record at Z-104.
Yes.
And now it's back.
Right, exactly. Well, barely.
Well,
at the movie, and they remixed. I can't believe it wasn't like front and center. So that picture is me getting this gold record.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's so that's Smash Mouth. I think that's 98 degrees, right? Backstreet Boys. My prized possession though is right there. I'm kind of hiding it, and that is Madonna.
Oh, I got that same Madonna plaque. I should take my.
Do you have it?
Yeah, I do. The one with the 3 CDs on the top, the million.
Yeah, it's the Ray of Light.
Yeah, the Ray of Light.
The Ray of Light.
We briefly worked. You and I did it at Z-104. Speaking of the Barbie, we got to cover this because Barbie's in the movie theaters, and it's timely here. I always thought that was crazy in Barbie Girl. I don't know if you've played the song a million times, so I'm sure at the beginning, and I said this on the radio like 100 times, and nobody would ever they never thought of it. But when Ken is like, "Hiya, Bobby," I was like, that doesn't sound like Ken at all. That sounds like some construction worker in New York City.
Yeah,
Hiya, Bobby. It's like that is not Ken. But that record.
No, I got quoted in USA Today because we were playing that. That's like three stations across the nation were playing Barbie Girl. Because I walked that into the program director Dale O'Brien's office, and said, "Dude, I don't know. Let's just throw it on, see what happens." we broke that one. We broke LFO,
Summertime Girls.
Yeah. And we broke what was the other one? Savage Garden. I Want You. We played as an import. That was an import. Columbia Records hadn't even snagged them yet.
This is live radio. Hold on, I got to show you something. You just said
it. Here we go.
I know. It's like show and tell.
Oh, it is a Budweiser sign. Oh, look at that. He's got Guns N' Roses. He's got
LFO.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I just taking it down, actually. They were the best one-hit wonders you could ever imagine. But very nice guys. I actually met him at Z-104. I think we brought him in for a show.
We did. Well, and here's the thing is, okay, so I got a little side story. So we pulled that from the there was a little dance label, and Dale and I pulled it from the dance label because Z-104 had a little bit more of a dance tip in, what was it? Real McCoy Another Night was in Powers for like a year. Okay. Right. Because nobody else was doing it. PGC reacted a little bit, and so did, they were a little bit more in the urban CHR, and actually Mix 107.3 reacted too. They started playing La Bouche. No, don't just let us have this. And we were playing La Bouche, Be My Lover. And So we found this song from LFO. New Kids on the Block have a bunch of, and we're like, this is kind of cool.
Makes me sick. Yeah.
Right. So we started playing it. And then we got a call from Kelly, the record rep for the local label, for the dance label. She said, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, we're playing your record. Did you add it? I'm like, yeah, sure. I guess we added it. So, it was casual. Like, we got a lot of great response from it. So unbeknownst to me, is we're playing the song and it's just regularly on the radio, and unbeknownst to me, Elliot in the morning from DC 101, who was Elvis and Elliot at the time, he was in Z-100 New York,
Yeah,
he was in DC doing an interview for the job, heard the song on Z-104, calls this as the story goes, I don't know, I wasn't there, calls Tom Pullman, the program director, and says, "Look, you gotta," it was a big muckety muck now at iHeart, "you gotta play this song." So they play it. Next thing I know, in the trades, added at Z100. I'm like, I called Kelly. What's going on?
You stole it from us. Well, actually, that you kind of go to my first question here. So we're talking about the late '90s there,
right?
And you just talk about taking a record that's not that is just off, whatever, and walking it into your PD's office and having the ability to put something on that's not researched and this and on station plays.
No, Dale, we didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah,
How crazy was that? Yeah, it was awesome.
But that's when you had to have like an ear and the gut and kind of go, "God, yeah, I think this is cool. Let's try it."
Well, it's funny you should say that. So that right there is a flat from an artist named Jason Faulkner. Jason Faulkner was in a band called he was in the Grays, and then before the Grays, he was in Jellyfish. Okay. So it's very much, it was, jangle, power pop from the 90s. Okay. And he's virtuoso. He's playing everything on the album. Oh, there you go. There's the Z104 logo. Oh, wow.
Look at
there's
that hair,
me. Yeah. Me before I had the rock and roll hair there. It was down my back, and I always had it in a ponytail like there. And it just looked like I was being chased from behind by a chinchilla or something. So it was weird. So I finally got it caught up.
Brian, who are you with there?
That's Matt L.A. Reid. That's Sammy Simpson, who's who was the promotions director in the front. Dale O'Brien's standing in the back next to the logo, and then I believe that's NSYNC. En Vogue.
En Vogue.
Vogue. And Vogue was there because they went on L.A. Reid's show. He was doing Afternoon Drive at the time. And I think he goes by Matt Reid now. And he was and he had them on the air, and they were singing live. It was awesome. It was fantastic.
Oh man.
So I get this. I had a poster behind me for a band that was on Sire Records that didn't really go anywhere, called the Greenberry Woods. And two of the boys, Matt and Brent Huseman, actually twins, were from Middletown, Maryland, where I live. And they had formed this band and they were signed by the same guy who signed the Ramones. Anyway, loved those guys. I have the poster on the back of my wall. I have the record promoter from WEA, Warren Electra Asylum. I think Electra. She was an Electra. She goes, "If you like that, listen to this." And she hands me Jason Faulkner CD. And I took it home, and it's called Jason Faulkner Presents Author Unknown. Look it up. It's on YouTube. Or just buy it and help a guy out. It was 96. I listened to every track. It was unbelievable. And they had an emphasis track on there, the single, which was called Follow Me, which I thought should have been a hit. Now, we couldn't play it yet. So I called, I had put in a little bit of time at WHFS, 99.1 HFS, which was alternative rock at the time. And I called over there, and I'm like, "You guys need to play this." And I called over to DC 101 because I had worked there too. And I was like, "You guys need to play." So I'm working this record for them.
You became a record rep there.
You need to play this. And it never happened. But apparently, as the story goes, Elektra had spent a lot of money to sign this other band, and they had to make it a hit. And it was Third Eye Blind. So he kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Backseated him.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that was the thing. My desk was covered with CDs. I was the assistant program director and music director at Z104. Dale and I It was funny because he gave me the greatest advice, which was never go out to dinner, just do lunch with the record reps. And so the first time we had just signed on, we're this CHR in Washington D.C. We're back at Contemporary Hit Radio. Top 40 is back in Washington because it had disappeared when I think Wava had gone off.
Yeah.
And so there we are. And I remember it was Lisa Ellis who was she was the Columbia rep. Columbia Records. Here we go. This is who it was, like Billy Joel's label, and the king of labels, or queen, I should say. And she calls us up and says, "Hey, let me take you out to lunch." And Dale and I are like, "All right, cool." And she's like, "Where do you want to go?" She shows up. "Where do you want to go?" She's got the gold card.
Oh yeah,
the radio lunch. She's ready to go. Best. Where do you want to go? And I'm not kidding you. At the time, we weren't in Northern Virginia. We were in Marlow Heights, and we're like, Dale's like, there's this IHOP that's like right over here that we've been dying to try. And Ron and I, we love like pancakes and breakfast food. And she's like, "Are you serious?" So,
I have the card, right? I mean,
yeah.
Not
and we're like, let's go. Let's do it. Yeah. So we did. Yeah. We went to IHOP. She's like, "This is the greatest lunch I've ever."
Yeah, because it was probably $46 and not $2,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. For all of us. And we got seconds. No, but that was the thing is Dale O'Brien was a great, not only a coworker, but he was a mentor in that, teaching me how to navigate the business and working with them and in management and working with the DJs. And, and then I was on the air for a little while. I was the morning show. We had signed on. Actually, we just celebrated the anniversary, July 15th. Changed the format. I was the outgoing program director of Extra 104. It was the 70s station. And the new owners had come in, Bonneville, and we're changing it to Z-104. We're changing it to a top 40 CHR. Dale O'Brien's going to be the PD. And so he called me and said, because he was still in Lexington, Kentucky, and he's like, "Hey, I don't want to mess with anybody's gig, so why don't you take this office? You can be the APD MD, and then you'll work for this salary. Well, let's just keep you where you are." I'm like, "Okay, cool, and let's see how it works out. All right, let's and that was it. And we had
that's
a blast.
The easiest job interview ever.
Oh, it was a blast. It was a great time. Dale and I got along fantastically. He was always a great mentor. There's Dale all the way on the right. Yeah. And then of course Dick Clark. I got to meet Dick Clark, Sammy Simpson again, and then me. Because Dale would wear a coat and tie every day.
Oh yeah. Boy, he was busy. What's funny about Dale is he's one of the great program directors that actually, and I think you kind of touched on it, he wanted you to be successful. He wasn't scared of you out successing him because he was gonna and there's not a lot of people like that in programming.
No. If I win, he wins. I mean, everybody wins. I mean, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what he did. And he just cultivated this great culture where we were playing great music. We had great personalities on the air. And then I had filled in, did mornings for like 3 months because we were waiting for Billy Bush to work out his contract. And I think he had a non-compete or whatever. So then Billy took over and did the morning show. I very much wanted to do the morning show. I'd been bitten by the morning show bug a long time ago. And, but it just wasn't in the cards. So they put Billy in. Billy's on the morning show and he was fantastic and he tore it up. And then I was a utility player, got to go in and, fill in on whatever shift, usually sometimes afternoon drive, whatever. I had a jock shout jingle, "Run, Ross." And then there was a music band. I'm like, "What is he here? Call security." Z-104, Dale O'Brien and I was just recounting this the other day. He bought these jingles and he had one. His office when we were in Northern Virginia, you could see the skyline of Washington, D.C. You could see we were in across the Potomac River, and you could look at the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. And we had a top of the hour ID, WWVZ, WWZZ, blah, 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 today's hit music. And he would stand up in his office, and I could see him from my office, so I would come in and stand behind him, and the jingle was Z-104 Washington, and we would we would salute the Washington Monument. It was the absolute best. Absolutely. Even if he was in a meeting, it didn't matter. He was in a meeting with somebody, and you're, the 4 states and the White House. WWZZ Braddock Heights. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
it was that was a magic time. Was working at Z-104.
Well, it sounds like a good time. Is that the best place you've ever worked? Is it the funnest? The most fun you've ever had on the radio?
I've thought about that, and that is okay. So that was professionally fulfilling. There's the Hot Morning Mess with Mark and Chris. Mark's in the middle. Chris is right next to him, and that's her Marine haircut, Semper Fi, Chris. And then over on the right was our stunt guy, Teapot Tim Coburn, who is a fashion photographer now. He got out of radio wisely.
Yeah.
And I was the producer, and I did the news. I had never done news in my life. I did news for 5 years on the Hot Morning Mess. Wow. Okay, so you asked me what I did. What was the best? I never laughed harder than working with that bunch of yucca pucks. We had it was an unbelievable great time. Mark just has this genius creative mind. He is now a conservative talk show host. I told him while we were there, because we would go into talk topics or what have you, and I said, dude, you are talk radio. You need to go.
Yeah, oh yeah. He's got a real big TikTok channel. I follow him on TikTok. He's
monster. He's just monster. And that's a guy who played the internet and played it from the very beginning and played it exactly correctly. He was all over Facebook. He was all over Twitter. He was all over. He came up with he had an app that he was selling for a while called, I think it was called like Fan Mail, where it would send you a text and tell you how great you were every day. You could just subscribe to it. I'm like, that's brilliant. So, and then just by his talent, but then just also by being in the right place at the right time, he's become syndicated. He finally got off the top 40 radio and has become syndicated. So that was Mark. Chris wisely got out. She followed him after we were blown out in DC. We were fired from DC, and just the whole morning show, and they just started a new slate with the Kane Show, who was actually very successful for, gosh, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
He did a great job. Which was ironic. Again, same 200 people. Kane was the original program director of 90s on 9 at XM.
Oh.
And then later, when I started working at XM, and then I was there for the merge, and I became program director of 90s on 9 and Pop 2K.
Yeah,
those 2 channels.
Sadly, Kane has passed away. Actually.
Yes, he has. That was quite a shock. I talked to Toby, his friend Toby Knapp, who's doing mornings at Wash FM, for a little bit about it. They were very tight, very, very tight. But then he went to Florida. Mark K went to Florida.
Yeah.
To the Big Ape in Jacksonville. And again, he's working in Jacksonville. The Grease Man had come from Jacksonville to DC 101 and did, I don't know, almost 10 years there. And then anyway, he wound up back in Jacksonville on the classic rock station, and they struck up a friendship. When I was working with Mark K at the Hot Morning Mess and Hot in DC, they didn't know Grease. They had no idea. Chris knew Grease because she had been in DC for a little while. And she had worked with Don and Mike and done traffic and all that stuff. But Mark had no idea what I was talking about. And then he actually wants striking a friendship with the Grease Man in Jacksonville. Anyway, he gets out of the Big Ape and now is a conservative talk show. So I laughed the most there. I was professionally fulfilled at Z-104 in DC, at Z-104 in Frederick, which was my first job after my first job, which was in Hagerstown, Maryland. But I'll get into that in just a second. That was the one where I lived the radio station, meaning
oh yeah,
I was friends with everybody the morning guy, Bob Maxwell in the morning. Midday was Diana Gibson. I did afternoon drive, and our night guy was Dallas. And Dallas he was just such a talent. But you would just go and do personal appearances. If somebody was out doing a blood drive, you just showed up. And we hung out at everybody's houses on the weekend, and we went out together, and we ate together, and we had parties, and everybody hung out together, and they were my best friends. And I was going to retire from that station. And that's the first time I ever experienced a buyout. We were sold.
Oh.
And we had to take it off the air. And I took Z-104 in Frederick, Maryland, which had been, hit cranking, hot rocking.
Oh,
they had the
I grew up
WLS.
listening to it.
They had the WLS jingles from Chicago.
Hot stereo rock.
Z-104. And I had to take it off the air. I had to sign it off.
Wow.
And I remember
Danny and I both worked there, actually.
Yep.
The last song I played was ironically, or maybe fittingly, the last pop song Billy Joel ever wrote that was on the album River of Dreams, called Famous Last Words. And these are the last words that I'll have to say, and that was it. That was the last song.
Wow.
And then we flipped it to, at the time it was Extra 104. We were simulcasting Extra 104 from DC, which later became Z-104.
Z-104.
It's all very, the way it does this.
Yeah.
But anyway,
everything is intermingled.
It is.
So that was my family. 1069 in Hagerstown, which is now Eagle 1069, but it was 107X Marks the Rock when I first started there. I'll be celebrating 40 years in radio in 2 weeks.
Wow.
It was 1983. I was 19 years old. 18. I was 18 years old. 18 years old. I already had one year of college under my belt at University of Maryland. And my dad had told me that summer, why don't you call and see if you can sweep the floors? And so that's literally what I did. I cold called radio stations and asked if I could sweep their floors. And
that's awesome.
I did. And I got a call back. I got a call back from 1069. I actually talked to Kemosabe Joe at Z-104, who was the PD, and no, we're not hiring right now, which is funny because now we're really good friends and Facebook. So then I got a call back from 1069, from 107X, and I need to make a long story short. I finally wound up going there. I was a steak flipper at Beefsteak Charlie's. Remember Beefsteak Charlie's?
Oh, yes.
In the Fredericktown Mall?
Yes, at the mall.
Yeah. I was a cook at the Beefsteak Charlie's in the Fredericktown Mall. I got a call from I keep saying Eagle, from 107X on Monday, from Veronica, who did Afternoon Drive, and I think she was like the APD. And I got a call from her on Monday. I went in and did a demo on Tuesday. And I still remember to this day exactly what I did, because I had never been on the air in my life. And I did a minute news update for WARK AM 1490. It was a minute news update, ripped from the AP wire, and the Hub City forecast, did the weather. And then I did a public service announcement for WARK, wants you to know. And then I did a 107X concert report, I think, and a liner card from 107X. But I just thought I was going to be on WARK because they were running Orioles games, and it was music of your life. We had an automated system. There were 4 reel-to-reel decks and a sequencer, 4 tape casters had tones in them, which it went to the tape casters every 15 minutes. And either it was a pre-com and 2 commercials and a post-com or re-entry, or it was just all tones or whatever. And just said WARK. Or sometimes you would read you had to, that's where you put your news. You had to, while you were on the air, you had to go and run and do your minute news update on 1490 WARK, 2 a.m. And then
the good old days.
Your Hub City forecast, partly cloudy today up to 95. And then you recorded that directly onto a cart, and then you stuck that cart into the sequencer. And you had to do that once an hour. So anyway, I That was on Tuesday. They said, well, we'll call you by the end of the week. Wednesday, I couldn't take it anymore, and I called them. And I'll never forget it. Veronica says, I think we'll give you a whirl.
Oh,
and
my.
That's how I started my career. And then I went and quit Beefsteak Charlie's on Thursday because Friday I had to do an Orioles game. I was running an Orioles game on the AM and on WARK, and I had to do what was it? It was a West Coast game. I remember that, playing the California Angels. So first pitch was 10:05. That is a 98 degrees. So
Oh,
there I am.
wow.
There I am on the left with my John Lennon sunglasses on.
Yeah.
That's daughter the elder, Jordan, and that's her Tamagotchi. See her little Tamagotchi? That's
Oh,
hanging
yeah,
out
hanging off.
So the boys in 98 degrees, all they wanted to do was play with her Tamagotchi and mess with it.
Funny.
That's Janet from the morning show, Janet from Another Planet. Nick Lachey, is that Drew?
Drew, yeah.
Justin,
The guy that nobody can remember that was in 98.
Stop. Drew, Justin. Oh, that's Marnie Halpern from Motown Records. They were on Motown. And then the guy on the end. Anyway,
the guy that no one can remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So the funny thing about that is that they had brought him in. It was their first song, Invisible Man, which was a kind of hit. And we broke it. We broke it on Z-104. And they brought him in and they did a lunch with listeners. So we were at this restaurant and they got up to sing a cappella. And the restaurant manager asked us to leave.
You didn't clear that one.
They didn't get that one cleared from the top.
No, we were disturbing the customers, so we had to. So we did it on They did it on the front porch.
I can't eat with 98 degrees singing here.
Yeah,
jeez, that's great.
That was hilarious. So anyway, I started working at WARK, and then 2 weeks later, I had the overnight guy, Rob Reiser. Well, it was Rockin' Rob, who is Buddy Reiser now, a legend in broadcasting, who later became program director of DC 101. But he came in and says, hey, you're supposed to run the board with me after this game's over. So when the game was over, I had to call mom and dad. I'm like, I'm not going to be coming home. I'm supposed to be working. They're like, okay. And he came in to do the overnight. So he showed me we had the card system and the flow sheets. There was no computers. There were no computers.
Yeah.
The flow sheet. Did you ever do the flow sheet, Marco, with the A's and B's?
Yeah, I think so. I've seen definitely on the carts for sure.
You had the big. It was a card catalog, and it was 5 and 8 by 7, whatever they are. No cards. On the top of the note card was the song title. So One More Night. Underneath, Phil Collins. The album, No Jacket Required. The record label underneath that, it was A&M Records, I think. And then underneath that was a grid of 24 blocks all the way across, and then I don't know how many down. And so what you did was you had your flow sheet that it started off with a B, and then there was a C, and then a line across, and you would pull all your A's, all the power records. And the first one, Phil Collins, you write that in, your first A, and I'm putting this in at midnight. So in the 12 o'clock block, you put in that date.
Gosh.
Oh, yeah.
You took that card and put it to the back of the
Oh.
stack. And you filled in all of your A's, and then you filled in all of your B's. All your C's were new music. And then you had, I forget was it D's?
Recurrence.
You had recurrence, and then you had gold. So
yeah.
all the Led Zeppelin and all that. It was a
Yeah.
rock station.
Holy
Beatles.
cow.
All that stuff you filled in later on. And you never, ever busted format and played your favorites. You played what was in the card. And you did not dig.
You did. Sometimes you get a call from the music director. Then what are you doing?
Oh,
I'll never forget. I was at P104 in Baltimore. I was 18 years old, and I was a little short on time. And I did 2 to 6 a.m. was my first real shift in Baltimore, and it was like 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm gonna play The Boys Down in My Heart because I like that song. And I swear to Jesus, 5 seconds into that song, the hotline rings. I'm like, who is calling this? And our music director name was Pam Trickett. She's like, hey man, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, this song is not. I'm like, oh, I was short. You gotta call me and I'll give you. I'm like, it's 3:00 in the morning. Boy, I never did that again.
You weren't sure.
Never did that again.
No, I got busted. I pulled a song, or I wrote a song down on my flow sheet, and the music director who was on 7 to Mid, I wound up doing Friday night mid to 6, Saturday night mid to 6, and Sunday 6 to mid. So I had no social life, none. I couldn't go out to any clubs. I couldn't do anything. And he spotted it, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm playing the song. I forget what it was. And it was that important, though, that I had to play this song. And he goes, "Was it in the cards?" I said, "Yeah, it was in the cards." He goes, "No, it wasn't, because I just pulled it yesterday."
Damn it.
Busted.
You know, it's funny when you meet listeners, they always say, "Can you play whatever you want?" You're like, not really, but you can, except you get in trouble if you get caught.
Yeah.
There's that studio. That's this studio. I stole the Sirius XM Pulse banner because I was working from home, and I had it in the background all the time. And there's my Flogging Molly's t-shirt. I love Flogging Molly.
Love it.
Now, how did you get on at XM Radio? Tell me how you got from Terrestrial to XM.
Ever since that first job at Sirius XM, it has been all in who you know. I've had a personal connection with every single radio station since then. When I was at Hagerstown, Buddy Reiser left and was working at DC 101, and so he called me and said, "Hey, you want to do Sunday nights?" And so I wound up doing Sunday nights. Then I did Friday night overnight, Saturday night overnight, Sunday. Now, by this time, I was married and had a daughter. So that job was the job that bought. Oh, there's Matt Nathanson. That's at Sirius XM. That was our Christmas show. I love Matt Nathanson. He was a great, great artist. And I would consider us kind of friendly. When you meet somebody like all the time, and you interview them at least twice a year, once a year, twice a year. And you see him all the time. He's a good dude.
It's like if you saw him at the mall, he would come up to you and say, "What's up?" Yeah.
Actually, he is opening for a show, Danny, we gave tickets away to, and he's opening for somebody. And I'm like,
oh,
I should totally go to that show just to say hi. Where was I? Oh, so Hagerstown. So then I worked at DC 101. And while I was at 101, so then I got fired in Hagerstown.
No,
for pulling songs
from Manning Broadcasting. You know what? It was my time. I'd been there for 9 years. It had been, I got a little bit of a big head about it. I did. Let's be honest. And it put me in my place. And it was the funny story about that is, so I have a meeting with the general manager, close the door, we're gonna make a change.
I know those meetings.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a change. It was pleasant, it was fine. We're gonna make a change in afternoons. And I'm like, okay, because I'd been there before in that office when they said we're switching to oldies. And so I'm like, okay.
Fred fire you?
I'm still not getting it. Fred was in the room.
Yeah.
But he did not fire me. He was in the room. But he has no memory of this.
So funny.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it was my time to go, and it needed to settle me down. So anyway, I called a Z-104 in Frederick because their midday woman, Diana, had been my intern in Hagerstown.
Oh, wow.
So she got me in to talk to Bob Maxwell, was the PED at the time, for afternoon drive, and I got afternoon drive at Z-104. Then less than a year later, I became the program director of Z, and then we were sold, and then I wound up working as a board operator for the morning show and a producer for the morning show at Extra 104, and that's where I worked with Steve Moore Music Michaels, and then later on it was with Wes Johnson. Do you know Wes Johnson?
Yeah,
Wes Johnson,
familiar.
Wild West from HFS.
West.
And now we did the morning mess with Marilyn and Wes. It was Marilyn Thompson, Wes Johnson, and he does the hands down best Jack Nicholson, just a normal Jack Nicholson. He's not doing a caricature.
You can't handle the truth.
He used to do the weather. Today it's going to be rainy. He was awesome. He did Jack Nicholson. It was Jack Weather with Jack. And so now he's the voice. He's the in studio he's the announcer for the Washington Capitals.
Oh, is that nice? He
is.
in-game.
Ovechkin. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Wes. He's got and he's an actor too. He's been in a bunch of things. Homicide, Life on the Street, a lot of Baltimore centric stuff. He was in Veep and yeah, you look up Wes Johnson. Go to IMDb, look up Wes Johnson. So then I was there, and then we were sold again, and for 17 minutes, we were going to change the format. 104 was going to be a AAA adult album alternative, and they put me up in a hotel here in Frederick at the Sheraton.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a computer, and I'm entering all of the stuff into Selector for this format of what it was going to be. And then it never happened.
Oh my gosh. That's awful.
Never happened. So I wound up getting program director of Extra 104, the 70 station, for a little while as the wheels were coming off the wagon. Bonneville comes in. I survive, and it's we flip it to Z-104, and I'm there for a bunch of years. And then they send me back to Frederick to be a station manager at the Repeater 103.9. And I did a morning show on the country station, the Real Country Club. And it was like the classic stuff. I'll never forget Loretta Lynn when she passed. I just loved that song, Fist City. If you don't know it, look it up. It's everybody knows Coal Miner's Daughter and all these other great Loretta Lynn songs. Fist City. It was a #1 country record, by the way. And so I did that for a while, and then I wound up working with a voiceover guy, John Pleasy. John Pleasy was from Mix 107.3, and then later he was
Q107 at first.
Yes. Sonny Fox. Sonny Fox on the air. The Fox of Rock
is one of the best voices around. Yeah, he was doing nights at Q107. I was in Baltimore, and then we had a friend who was away. So I like Sonny. He's a good guy, and he's super talented.
John is he's just wonderful, and I learned so much from him. So I was his office admin for a while. And for a little while. And then I had worked on the AIR Awards, the Achievement in Radio Awards, which was a fundraiser for March of Dimes. And I had put together the judging panel. So I had met all these other people at all these other radio stations, and we judged outside the market. So we did like San Francisco or Atlanta or whatever. And so through them, Bennett Zier, who wasn't iHeart at the time, Clear Channel in DC. So I called him up because I was looking for a job, and he put me in touch. He sat me down with like 2 or 3 of the program directors. Jeff Wyatt was one. Steve Allen was another, a Big 100, which was an oldie station at the time, because they were looking to get a program director for the morning shows, just the morning shows. And so they had me, cool. So they had me listen to the program, to the morning shows and give my critique and so on. And I sat in an interview, and that's the first time I got the, you've never moved out of the market. How the hell not? And I stopped him right there. And I looked at the guy, I'm like, you're full of shit. I do not have to leave here. I'm sorry, I cursed. I do not have to leave this market to know how to be a good broadcaster. You can't tell me that. I do not have to work in Poughkeepsie or Denver or Phoenix or wherever in order to be a good broadcaster. Just because I'm from the area and I can do a great Baltimore accent there, hon, doesn't mean that I'm not a good broadcaster. Anyway, the position never happened. I never got it, but I did get a call from Wyatt, and that's where Wyatt hooked me up with the morning show at Hot 99.5. And then we were fired, and I was on the beach for a while, 6 months. But one of the guys that I worked with at Hot, LBD, the Don of DC, was working at XM part-time.
Wow.
And he got me in to talk to John Zellner. There's Kelly Clarkson. And she's exactly as chill as you would think she is.
Really?
Yep. She's just the coolest person, just hanging. That was just like, oh, hey, can I get a selfie? And she's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And, I cannot say enough nice things about her. she and Colby Calais and that whole crew that came up. When I started working at XM, it was Flight 26. They stuck me on the mornings, and it was they didn't have a morning personality yet, and they were just like, just do the show, just be a jock. So I was live, and he's like, well, what time? We want you to be live. What do you want to be live at like 9 a.m.? I'm like, I'll never make it in. I'll be the traffic will kill me. I'll be live at 6 a.m. And they're like, really? I'm like, yes, I'll be 6 to 9 live, and then 9 to noon was tracked, and on Flight 26. And who was it? And that's where I met. My first interview there was Colby Calais. She was just starting out. Sarah Bareilles, Ingrid Michaelson.
Wow.
That whole class is where I cut my teeth on satellite radio on Flight 26. And then, yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, like, satellite, what was the transition like? Did you feel like there was any transition as far as what you were doing, or you just kind of did the thing?
Absolutely. Well, it was absolutely. Well, it's a different animal. It's the same animal, different species, I should say. Because you're broadcasting. I mean, I just had Mike Abrams, who's the program director of Flight 26, said, just talk. Just get on there. Just get on the air and talk. That's it. That was the utmost direction I had.
That's an interesting direction.
Just to get on the air and talk. I did have John Zellner tell me. There you go.
Look at it.
We were in New York. I did have him, John Zellner, who was the head. Now, Flight 26, that was his baby. He loved that format, and he had put it together. It was they called it modern music. It was kind of hot AC, but it was more on the rock tip. So it was John Mayer and Jack Johnson and really cool stuff like that. And you did play some U2 and Third Eye Blind. You dipped into some of the Filter. You want to take a picture. It was a great sounding station, which I think it's kind of evolved into pop rocks now. If you listen to that.
Right, yeah.
Although I still listen to Pop 2K still has all of that stuff with the dance stuff in there too. Anyway, so there I developed the morning show. It just organically developed into this entity that was beyond anything I thought it was ever going to be. I had carte blanche. I could do anything I wanted, and which was a blessing and a curse. It was, I could do anything I wanted. I could do characters on the air if I wanted to do. I could, whatever. And I decided not to go that route. But the curse was that I was policing myself. So I was worse than any boss you would ever have. When I'm listening to the breaks, I'm like, oh God, that sucked. What was that? And why did you? God, can you sound any more radio announcery, Ron? Just relax, be yourself. And it was harrowing as I was just kind of beating myself up trying to do a great show, and then it just snowballed from there. The question of the day just developed out of I just threw it out on the air once. I said, because Eddie Murphy was going to be hosting the Oscars, and he was a member of the Academy, and you don't get to become a member of the Academy unless you get nominated. So what Oscar was he nominated for? And I threw that out there, and I got all these phone calls, and people were like, oh, it was for Trading Places, or named all of his big hits, and it wasn't. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Dreamgirls. And that's how it started. So the next day I asked another question, and the next day I asked another question, and the next thing you know, I'd had this whole litany at the top of the hour at 8 a.m.
Now, did all your regular radio friends hate you because you're on satellite and you're taking eventually going to be taking? Everyone's like, oh, satellite's taking over, and all you DJs are going to be out of work.
Nah, I never got that.
Well, that's good.
Never ever got that. I was the thing that was a different animal there was that no ratings. You didn't have to worry about ratings. You didn't have to worry about commercials. You didn't have to worry about any of the things that I had worked with before. So really the pressure was off. Because I had literally I had the program director at the time say, what are they going to do? They're not going to cancel their subscription if you you're fine. You'll be okay. And when you have that backup from management to just be as creative as you possibly want to be, it was ridiculous. So that was professionally fulfilling.
Yeah.
And then becoming a program director for 90s on 9 and for when I played all that stuff when it was new at Z-104. And back in the 90s. So I knew all these records. I knew Barbie Girl and I knew all of that stuff that I was playing at LFO and I just knew it like the back of my hand. And so that was an easy one. And then Pop 2K was easy to do because I had been at Hot and I played all those songs when they were new at Hot 99.5. So I knew that format. So the challenge there was you have a finite number of songs to play. You're going to be playing the same ones over and over again. And the thing, and you know this, Marco and Dani, the thing they love about us is the thing they hate about us, is it's the repetition. Why do you play the same songs all the time? And I get it. I understand that. But ask them what their favorite song is, and can I play that too much for you?
Right.
And we did actually have research. And my counter was always, look, it's just math. It's just simple math. We're playing, that's Ingrid Michaelson on the left. And that's her backup singer, Allie, on the right. And that's the XM.
Yeah.
That's me like 50 pounds ago. So it was that's 2008, 7 or 8. I just started there. Yeah. That was all for first hit album. Just the Way I Am. I'll buy you Rogaine. That whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't. I had the research to tell me what hit songs to play and the big songs to play, but I didn't have immediate feedback. But you were just playing the odds. You play the most popular testing songs as often as you can, so that more people have a chance to hear it, and that was it.
Yeah.
That seems like a good formula, boy. They could just follow that even today.
Yeah, you would think.
you would think.
You would think.
Yeah.
You would think.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, how has radio changed? Because you've done satellite, obviously, and terrestrial radio. Because today you got TikTok, you got YouTube, you got a lot of players now where you're getting songs that you may never have heard before that are breaking before and now actually the big thing on TikTok, I don't know this, is a band will release 5 or 6 songs, just snippets, and see which ones trend, and then they start working on those. That's a new thing that a few country artists are doing that I've talked to, that they just put like 10 out, and the ones that get the most likes, they don't even finish them. You know what I mean? It's crazy how it is today. So I had
an interview with Sheryl Crow, because that'll address this. By the way, that is the Pillow Fort studio that driving in the background. It was my Christmas show, so there's my Santa, and I'm talking to Ava Max. Ava Max just ended up putting out a Christmas song.
Yeah,
so that was 2020 or 2021, and anyway. I'm talking to Sheryl Crow, and she said that she had just put out her last album. She's not going to make any more albums anymore. And I'm like, so are you retiring? She goes, absolutely not. I'm just going to record a song, and when I feel like putting it out, I'm going to put it out. There's no reason the art of the album has died.
Right.
Yeah.
And unless you are Taylor Swift, or unless you're The Weeknd. Other than that, or you're a rock artist where you can craft 15 songs and put them together into a collection.
Yeah. That Morgan Wallen or Luke Combs.
That has a point. Correct.
Right.
Other than that, it's gone.
Right.
And my younger daughter, Carolina, who's actually, she has her own band called Swerve. Look them up, by the way. Swerve's band on YouTube. And you can buy their stuff on iTunes. It's not iTunes anymore. Apple Music. Anyway, she's on Spotify. She always contended with me that, the artists want their stuff out there on the internet for free. And I'm like, you're stealing their music. Now, I don't know if she's singing a different tune, but she's kind of singing a little different tune now that her stuff is out there.
Yeah.
But I don't think the way she found new music was going to shows and word of mouth and it wasn't necessarily radio. It was a lot of it was just the internet and friends and people who were passing on. Oh, have you heard this? Have you seen this video? Have you seen this artist? And so on. So that's a thing that's really, it's funny you should say how it's changed, because I spent so much time on the internet. When I was at XM, I started the web pages I started the Facebook page, the Instagram page, and the Twitter for the Pulse, for Flight for the Pulse, for 90s on 9 and Pop 2K. I started all those, and before we had a department, we didn't have a department, and I'm like screaming at them because they kept going, "Oh, go to XM or SiriusXM.com/ the." I'm like, guys, this is free. Everybody's here. That's the studio. I had to make that sign for DC. I'm like, how much is it? Kid Kelly, he was the head of pop programming, and he's like, how much is it? I'm like, I don't know, just make it. So he made it. He had it done for us and had it mounted on the studio. That was, what studio was that? That was Music 3. I was in Multifunction 4 for 10 years, and then Music 3 is what I don't know what they've named them now. But what was I talking about? Oh, new music.
Finding new music.
I'm sorry, the internet. And it's just a different landscape. I don't know if it's something that I don't recognize so much. I mean, I'm on Facebook every day. I have a lot of Facebook friends. I don't tweet as much as I should. And recently I've been starting getting into Instagram. I don't have a TikTok. I haven't done any of that stuff. I stayed away from Snapchat because my daughter told me to. So she didn't want me to. She didn't want me to do that. So in the past 3 years, I conducted the show and any of the interactive aspects of the Ron Ross Morning Show on the internet, was on Facebook. So I would ask the question of the day, or we did older, played games, older or younger. We developed a game which by the way, I'm going to bring to Key, Danny, called What TH Is It? And it's a picture, and we're going to post it on the Key page. And then you gotta tell us what it is.
Okay.
But it's an everyday object. You zoom in super tight.
Yes. I love it.
Tight. Yeah. Okay, good. We'll play.
So that kind of brings me to this question. So you went from terrestrial radio to satellite pretty much. Now you're from satellite back. Is there a big difference? Is it harder? Is it easier than you thought it was going to be going the opposite direction?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's fun to be back live. It's exciting. There he is, back in the Key studio. That was National Eyeglass Day, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So I had people post pictures of them with their eyeglasses, which they did, which I thought was kind of cool.
They did.
The thing now, it's the ratings game.
Oh yeah,
Marco. So it's all the ratings game, and it's all recall, because we're in a market now that doesn't have the portable people meter, so we don't have that luxury.
Right.
Nielsen comes in with the diaries, and as well as I, you got to get them to write it down. Yep. How do you get them to write it down? You got to get them to remember your name. How do you get them to remember your name? Say it over and over and over and over again. So it's calls in, calls out. It's back to the basics. Key 103 and blah, 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 blah. Here's Ava Max on Key 103. It's kind of comforting, because I'm stepping back into an old pair of shoes that I did, but I haven't done for 16 years. I hadn't had to worry about it.
Yeah.
I caught myself, Danny. I caught myself almost saying the Ron Ross Morning Show. Almost.
Well, ask Marco about that.
Did you do that?
Oh, well, yeah. I've
been
wrong
different call letters.
I've been yeah. It's funny is I've been probably 5 different names. I did the complete opposite of what you did. I moved all over the country. I think if you watch my thing, I think I've been at like 20 different radio stations, 25.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, all over the country.
Okay.
Forward and backwards. But the funny thing is I'll do it every once in a while out of the blue for no reason whatsoever. I almost like 2 weeks ago here, I work at K100. It's a country radio station. And I think I said, Yes, I said something. I was in maybe Seattle, which was like 5 stations ago. Just out of the, it's not even the same frequency. It's 98.9, and here it's K1. I don't know. It's so weird, but if I don't think about it, for an instant, it could mess up because I've been so many different places. So
I did this. I have this litany that I do at the intro of the question of the day, and I moved it, and it started over at the Pulse, and then I moved it over, and I still use it over on Key. And just do it off the top of my head, but I make sure I type it every day just to practice my typing skills. But time to the gray matter working, fire up the synapses, engage the frontal lobe, form new neural networks, utilize the cerebrum, and just an intro into the question of the day, and then it's the dun dun dun, and I almost said Pulse question of the day. It's just gonna happen.
It's
just gonna happen.
Yeah.
Has anybody called you
memory
on Key 103? Say, hey, were you the guy on the satellite radio that I used to listen to?
Very first day. Well, yeah. I started, and God bless this guy. I got to give him some credit and to acknowledge my friend John Yaglenski. John, I worked with him in Hagerstown. He was at the time, it was Magic 106.9. And it was 4 songs in a row and no talk.
Oh, wow.
We would stop the music to say we weren't going to talk.
Which seems odd, but
it does seem odd.
Thank you, consultant.
Yeah.
Magic 106.9. Always 4 songs in a row and no talk. You play 2 songs and
except for right now when I'm talking.
Except for right now when I'm saying 4 songs in a row and no talk. No, but that's where I worked with John, and so anyway, fast forward, I get laid off from Sirius XM after 16 years. I got caught. It was 8% reduction in force. A lot of great people lost their jobs. I felt targeted at the time until I sat down with my friend Greg Bell, who is over on Radio Classics, who lives in the area. And he said, dude, there were a lot of great people that got fired. It wasn't just you. It didn't happen to just you. And I'm like, okay, all right, yes, you're right. They put it into in perspective.
Yeah.
But John lives in South Carolina now, and he came up to, and he still works in Washington, D.C., so he flew up, and he says, look, I got a piece of equipment for you if you want to use it, if you want to start, building a studio at home. Because I was going to try to market the morning show to go out nationwide. I'd called in some big favors, but there was nothing happening, man. It was tight out there in the job market.
Yeah.
And but he gave me a board. But we're sitting there at lunch, and he said, look, we need to get you back on the air. And I said, well, I was thinking about doing it because let's do a podcast. So I'm doing a podcast now on Tuesdays. I do it live, and then you wherever you get your podcasts, Ron Rush Radio Show podcast, and we just freeform. The subtitle is Squirrel, but I digress because as you've heard in this conversation, I tend to go off on tangents. There's a picture pops up, and I'm like, oh, hey, that was this. No, what was I talking about? and that's what we do. But I have to acknowledge John, who got me back into the swing of things, and then I have to acknowledge Fred Manning, who called me like right after I was let go. Hey, let's go out to lunch and let's talk. And we did, and we talked. And so I wound up at Key 103 doing afternoon drive. And I had a friend tell me, you look more relaxed and happy. And I'm not pulling 14-hour days, and I'm not, you know what I mean?
We'll get you there, Ron. We're just going to ease you in. We're going to ease you in.
I'm sorry, your mic cut out. I didn't hear what you said.
The radio geek in me wants to know, out of curiosity, what board this man give you? What kind of board? Is it a Wheatstone? Is it a radio board?
Oh no, it's a little
Roadcaster.
No. I was going to buy a Roadcaster, and he's like, dude, you don't need to buy a Roadcaster. Just use this.
Oh, so it's like just a little mixer.
It's what it's a little mixer. It's the who's the running guy? It's not Behringer. It's not EV.
Yeah.
I'm looking right at it.
Mackie?
Mackie. It's a Mackie board.
Mackie. Yeah.
He gave me a Mackie board.
Nice. Well, those are some good friends, man.
I know. I'm telling you. and then Kim Ashley, who has moved. She's now doing mornings at Pop 2K, I think. she gave me a mic processor and a compressor and all that stuff, which, by the way, is fun to get through the airport.
Yeah.
What's this?
Is it a
And you're
DBX
like,
186?
all right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's right here. He opens it up like, what is this? It's a mic processor. It's for a microphone. It's my home studio. And he goes, what's this doing? What's that doing? I'm like,
well, I would tell you, but then I wouldn't be allowed on this flight. And
I'm
then
gonna
all of
have
a
it.
sudden you're TSA for 3 weeks. It's just not good to make jokes like that at the airport.
Right. Now I did, to go back and answer your question from a while ago is like, what was the best gig? I'd have to say since 90, when I started working in Z-104, 94, I guess. And I just retired from it last year, actively on the air. It was Christmas Cash for Kids. It's a fundraiser. It's a radiothon.
Oh,
and
we had that when I
we
was
started
there.
Z-104.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you worked Christmas Cash.
Yeah,
So I
I've done
did.
a few of those.
I did Christmas Cash. That was the first time there at Z-104 when it was just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after Thanksgiving.
That's what we did. That's
And it
when
was
we
20.
were doing it.
It was 24/7.
24 hours. Yep.
24 hours. And then you had all the kids who would empty their piggy banks and
Yes.
So fast forward to this year or last year, I retired from doing it I'd been doing it for 30 years. So I would come back wherever I worked. It didn't matter. And I never asked permission from it. I didn't ask permission from Sirius XM or anybody. I just went because once we were bought and they were shutting down the live programming aspect of 8:20 a.m., I had Christmas Cash for Kids. My wife and I had Christmas Cash for Kids in our hands, and we're like, where are we going to go? So I called Bob Miller over at WFMD. Yep.
Yeah.
And said, do you want Christmas? Absolutely. And so brought it over there, and they bought the old jingles, Christmas Cash for Kids. So actually the first guy who was on the air with that was Ron Kitzmiller, did mornings at the time. And then later, Bob Miller became the morning mayor on WFMD. But then I would go and do Christmas Cash for Kids with him. I do mornings and afternoons. And my very best friend in the whole world, George, who was a president of a sprinkler company, industrial sprinkler. So they did like the Pentagon and the White House and stuff like that.
Oh, not running through the lawn in the summertime.
No, industrial sprinklers to like
Right.
his sprinklers on 9/11, they were calling him.
Right.
Because his sprinklers were putting out fires in the Pentagon. And but anyway, he got involved in Christmas Cash. And then, so he would bring in, $10, $15, $20,000 checks.
Nice.
But from all of his friends, his vendors and stuff like that. So, and then gradually, my wife became the head toy shopper. So she goes and literally picks out all the toys for 1,500 children right here in Frederick County. They're vetted by the Salvation Army. These are deserving families. Anyway, I'm giving you the whole pitch and spiel, but that's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done.
Yeah.
We get to go and buy the toys to fill up the radio station, and then we play the "We Are Santa's Elves, filling Santa's shelves." I mean, it's just great. It's fun to. Now I say it's fun when you decorate the station. When you're out there buying and you've got 12-year-old boys. You have 45 12-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Heck, are you going to buy? She has to figure that out, and then she's got her angels or her volunteers that come in with her. So I mean, she does all the hard work. All I did really was just flap my gums and talk about the need and for Christmas Cash for Kids. But still, that's one of the great, because I'm an absolute nut. I'm crazy.
I could tell by your Christmas studio. You definitely took it serious.
Yeah, the fort.
I take it very, very seriously. I told Sirius XM. Now I created a channel on Sirius XM, which is still there, called the Emo Project, which is the pop punk bands like All Time Low and Blink and all of that stuff. Because my daughter was into it and nobody was playing this stuff, and I'm like, hey, let's do this. So, but I would go to them every year, right around March. What can I do on any of the holiday channels? Please let me, because they did 20 holiday channels.
Oh, yeah.
I said, look, I've got an idea for a holiday channel. And they're like, all right, what is it? And so, I mean, I pitched things and they were like, nah, you're spread too thin. You can't. I'm like, please, I want to work the holiday channels. I love. And then the day they would launch, November 1st, that was it. Holly was on 24/7. Holly or Joy or any of those. And I just loved them, acoustic Christmas, that was it. I was a nut for it. But ironically, it's funny because on 90s on 9, I decided to pull away from all of that holiday programming because I wanted to give an oasis for people who weren't into it. I mean, if you're Jewish and you don't want to hear All I Want for Christmas Is You from Mariah Carey on 90s on 9, I'm not going to play it. I'll play any of our other 19 number one songs from the 90s, and you can enjoy that. So you can, if you went to 90s on 9, that's what you got. You would get a promo for the holiday channels, but that's it. I never really spiked in holiday songs or any of that. I mean, I did for a while, but then I decided to pull all of that out and just kind of separate it since we had so many of those the great holiday channels. But
there
anyway,
he is.
So that was the most fulfilling thing is Christmas Cash for Kids. And then we put together a rock show called Christmas Bash for Kids with local bands, and it was at Champions. And we got 100% of the door, and we ran auctions, and it was great because then the bands would come, and my wife bought a snow machine. And, and they were required. Each one was you had to put a Christmas song in your set.
Oh,
so they did 1 hour set. And we would give a half hour to switch out the bands. We had like 3 big name bands, and then I would put my band at the beginning just to start things off.
There you go.
Isn't that the guy who's running? It's my band. It's my band. And so that was really fulfilling too, because that was combining my love for, I'm a musician, my love for my music and the local music scene, and then Christmas. And Christmas Cash for Kids. Put it all together, and it was a perfect stew.
Yeah, that is that is a good highlight to have for your career, because at the end of the day, we all do this to make a connection, to change something, to leave something behind, and that is something that has affected a lot of people.
That was the thing I was really happy with my morning show over at the Pulse, is when I did leave, I got great accolades from listeners who they found my email. It was funny because I had posted, I had sent the news story to All Access that I'm now available. I had my personal email and my personal cell number, and the people who were listening, because they didn't announce that I was gone, would search on the internet, that would pop up. So I had listeners who were calling my cell
nice,
or texting me. Just once. They've respected me after that. Nobody's called me after that. And or hitting my personal email going, hey, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. But I got some great, I just made sure that I knew that there were kids in the car. And in fact, it happened today, Danny. I asked the question of the day, and the woman got it right. And then when I'm talking to her afterwards, she goes, actually, it was my son who knew it. And I'm like, well, my 11-year-old son is the one who had the right answer. I'm like, why did you put him on? Because I did not and do not and will not shy away from kids and the family as a unit or whatever on the air. I know that they were heading into school or whatever, and they like to listen to the question of the day. And so I made sure that I was just family friendly, maybe PG. But that was it. And that was just me. That was me. I was just trying to be like super positive, and the coffee cup was always half full. So I'm trying to do that with the afternoon show now. It's just, make sure it's welcoming for everybody. I remember as a kid calling DC 101 and requesting Kiss. Big Kiss fan.
There you go.
Let's see, there's my Kiss logo.
The action figures
as dispensers.
Yeah.
Kiss Pets. Those are my Beatles. That's the Yellow Submarine Beatles.
There we go.
Okay. So
nice.
I got a couple of toys. And I called them and he said, we don't have that. And I said, you don't have Kiss in the studio? And I was offended. And I stopped listening to DC 101.
Now, never mind the fact that I owned all the Kiss records, and if I wanted to listen to a Kiss song, I could just put it on. I wanted them
Yeah.
to
You share it
validate
with everybody.
Yes.
validate my taste, right?
Everybody. Yeah.
When I became a DJ, I never turned anybody away. I would never lie to them either. I would just say, I can't play that. It's not on our playlist, or I physically don't have it in the studio right now.
Right.
But chances are most people would call for the popular song. So it was easy.
Yeah.
It was great. I always contended, and I kept telling people who would listen that the number one requested song when I did DC 101, and this was 90 to 94, I was at DC 101, DC's rock station. And we were a little bit more on the classic rock tip, although we were playing a lot of Pearl Jam and Nirvana, all that came out in 91, 92. And but the number one song, I'm on Saturday night, so it's 2 a.m. and all the drunks are getting out of the bars, they're getting in their cars, and I want to hear this, I want to hear that. And I'll contend to this day that the number one requested song was Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Hold on.
Oh.
The Ballad of Curtis Lowe.
What?
Wow, that's out there.
All they wanted to do was
let's see you
ballad.
play that on Key 103 tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, yeah, boy.
Nobody wanted Freebird.
You'll be meeting with Fred again, I can tell you
That's
that
right.
Because you heard
Freebird.
Well, we're glad to have you at Key 103, and thank you. I think this has been great, and I mean, it really is amazing. I think it's just incredible that you've been able to stay in your house in one market and have such an illustrious career. So
yeah,
kudos to you on that.
Oh, you are, please. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's one of those, and I heard Matthew Blades talk about this too, because I was watching his podcast that you did with him, his interview, where he said that, you're in a box and you don't know when their jokes are landing, or people are paying attention or listening or whatever, unless they interact with you on the internet or they give you a call. But basically you just don't know.
Right.
And I had the rare opportunity to finding out after I left the show that people were paying attention.
Yeah.
And I had a father who said that there was who said that his daughters, that was their bonding moment in the morning. And then they had gone and they listened. I'd been on for 16 years. And so, they had lived like 10 years old. Now they're in their 20s and they're in college. And he even went so far as to say, I think probably some of your influence made them the women that they are. I'm like, what are you talking about? That is way too much credit. But you get sentiments like that, and you're like, you're
part of people's lives, you're part of their routine, and they consider you part of the family. That's one of the great things about this job is
if you do it right.
If you do it right. I was we were at a friend's house, and they weren't. It was my wife's birthday, and her favorite band is Rush. So we're listening to Rush, and we're sitting out on the patio at this person's house. And Spirit of the Radio comes on, and they had never listened to the lyrics. And I'm like, are you kidding? It's me. Begin the day with a friendly voice, a companion unobtrusive, the magic music makes your morning. And I'm like, she's like, I've never listened to those words before. I thought every DJ loves this song because it's also an indictment a little bit of like the commercialism and all that, glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity. Neil Peart, of course, coming up with the greatest lyrics of all time, describing radio. So you're like playing it, and then, well, let's go and do a commercial break.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, it's just been an honor to be able to do this. I got to work at XM with my idol. The guy that got me into radio was Terry the Motormouth Young, who was on the 60s on 6. But when I was a kid growing up outside Richmond, Virginia in Mechanicsville, he was the night guy. He was the screaming night jock on 1480 WLEE Big Lee. And that's in the 70s. It was before FM really took off. Q94 was the big CHR in Richmond. But Terry the Motormouth Young did nights, and you would play Neil Diamond into Stevie Wonder into Aerosmith into, you know what I mean? It was Earth, Wind, and Fire, and then it was true top 40, the biggest songs. He talking over the intro, singing along to Cat Stevens, "Oh Very Young," "Oh Terry Young," and I got to walk the hallways with him at XM.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I got to fill in for him, and that was I called my parents. I'm like, "Oh my God, you won't believe this! I have his autograph." Well, when I was 9 years old, I have his autograph, and then I got to fill in for Terry the Motor Mouth. Yeah.
Well, awesome. That's full circle. Well, listen, man, we really appreciate you being on our show here tonight, and we're gonna we'll come around and do second shows with a lot of people because there's a lot to jam in our time here. But we really thank you for sitting down with us and really going down. This is pretty cool because obviously the having the regular radio, terrestrial radio, satellite radio, and all the programming and all that stuff. A wide variety of stuff in your radio career that you got to be proud of. So we appreciate you hanging out with us.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Very kind words. And thank you for the opportunity. I've had an absolute blast. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We love
you. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
And this was iced tea, by the way. It wasn't real.
and we're glad you're working with my sister so she can so you can keep her in line over there.
We cross paths every now and then. If she's working, if she's still there, I'm either too early or she's working late. We're not supposed to see each other.
Not too often.
All right. Well, there you go. Ron Ross, big legend here, and fantastic tonight. Awesome job. There we go. And we'll have more like this. Make sure you hit share, like, and follow all of your favorite radio DJs all over the world right here on our radio here, off the air and on the record.